The voice of Motown, West Virginia's leader in news, analysis, and rumors, proudly presents the Voice of Motown podcast, featuring your boys, Brandon and Tyler. Take it away, gentlemen.
All right, this is the Voice of Motown podcast. I'm Tyler Pepe.
And I'm Brandon Cork, and this is the WVU Sports Podcast by two suffering WVU fans.
All right, thanks for joining us today. If you guys want to follow us on social media, just look for the Voice of Motown podcast. Leave a comment. We love interacting with all the listeners. And for this episode, we have a very special guest from Big Game Boomer. We are joined by John Whitaker. John, thanks for joining us, man.
Hey, what's happening, fellas? How y'all doing?
Very good, very good. Very happy that you can join the show with us today, and excited for the chat.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on.
All right. Hey, John, obviously you're an Oklahoma alum, so I was just wondering, what years were you there? Were you there for the Bob Stoops era?
Yeah, so I graduated in 2014, so right before Baker Mayfield kind of came on the scene. I was there kind of during the Landry Jones years, which were a little disappointing, but yeah, no, right when you guys started, when West Virginia came into the Big 12 was, that was what, 2012, 2013, I think y'all came in.
Yep, 2012.
Yeah, I was there for the first home game when you guys came into Norman.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a WVU alum. I graduated there in 2011, and right at the end, my freshman year when I was there was the 13-9 Pitt game, which that's all I'm going to talk about for right now because I'm still traumatized. But you have such a big following. You're viral all the time, it seems like, whether for good or bad, because of your lists. How did you get started on that?
Man, it's crazy. It's I didn't use Twitter at all until like 2020 of last year, around like Thanksgiving, or so 2 years ago almost. And I just got online, was just kind of started just chatting with, or, tweeting it about sports stuff. Before you know it, I started getting in arguments with like famous people like Desmond Howard, and like Kirk Herbstreit retweeted one of my tweets. And like, I was like, whoa, this is pretty cool having this kind of exposure to these kind of famous people. So I just started cranking out these lists, I guess early of 2021 when the season was over, just because, people like to argue, and there's so much garbage on Twitter. And I don't get into politics or anything, but like, I don't do that. So I was like, well, let's argue about sports. So, I just started making these lists, and I mean, you guys see them, they just go crazy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And it's fun. It's fun because it gets fans from all over the country engaging and arguing with each other. And that's my favorite thing about it, is it just it's a kind of a hub for college sports now, it seems like.
Yeah, and everyone has an opinion. And I like your list because you don't always just do players or teams, but you throw in mascots, you throw in restaurants and college towns. So
absolutely.
So we were wondering, like, how much research goes into that, because not unless you are just constantly traveling, there's no way you've been to all these college towns.
Yeah, no. So I have a huge network of fans from the East Coast to the West Coast. So I get their input. I haven't been to every college town. So like for restaurants, for instance, I think I picked Mario's Fishbowl for West Virginia. And I've heard great things about that. My brother actually went to West Virginia for a year. So I had some good input from him. But then with like ranking like players and coaches, I tend to go off stats and past awards, or where they're going to get drafted in the NFL draft. I try to be pretty serious with those, but with the food stuff and the other stuff, it's just fun. I mean, I take my best shot at it and just put it on the internet, and it just goes crazy.
It's interesting that your brother went to WVU for 1 year. It seems to be kind of a lot of people do that just for the experience.
Well, he played football. He was a preferred walk-on, at West Virginia, for a year, and then transferred to a smaller school. He was a quarterback named James Whitaker. Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, so he was there during the Holgerson era.
That is awesome. I didn't know that either.
Yeah, not a lot of people do. So that's new information that's out there.
There you go. So we were asking about your rankings because, as a West Virginia fan, one of them was really making us scratch our head entering last season, the 2021 season, and then entering this one coming up, 2022. You have Jordan White as a top 50 offensive guard. And Jordan only played in 4 games last year, and a lot of people aren't even sure if he'll start this year. So, I mean, most people are predicting like Gamitter or Nestor starting at guard. So, what do you know about Jordan White that we don't? We hope he turns out to be a stud, but
yeah, I was just kind of going through. Yeah, I was just kind of going through some depth chart predictions. I saw him at guard on something, so I just plugged him in there. It probably wasn't right, but it is what it is. Got people talking.
Yeah, exactly. And, no hate on our end. I mean, it's got to be hard to know about every single team. There's so many.
This time of year, this time of year, when I do these rankings, it's hard because like the depth chart changes like so much, and especially on the offensive line, like guys are switching from guard to tackle or moving to center. So I would say like getting the offensive line and defensive line and linebackers is difficult because those guys do switch up a lot.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think you have a genius business model because, you're going to get a reaction out of fans, whether it's positive or negative. And so no matter what, you're getting engagement. And really, that's what it all comes down to on social media. It doesn't matter if they like what you put or don't like it, as long as they're commenting and sharing it, right?
Yeah. Well, it's like last year, like I was really high on West Virginia. I think I picked them finishing like 4th in the conference in the Big 12 last year. Thought they were going to have a really good year. They obviously didn't. So this year, my observation, my predictions for them have not been as favorable. So I feel like I have been catching people think your fan base thinks I just hate West Virginia. And I don't. I do not hate West Virginia. I have no problem with West Virginia. I'm just a little pessimistic on the Neil Brown era right now. And that could change. That could change if they have a great year this year. I'll come back on this show and tell you, hey, I was wrong. But they got to prove it to me this year.
Do you feel like you get more engagement from WVU fans now that you're ranking them lower than you did whenever you had them a little bit higher?
See, I don't know, because like back last year, I was pretty high on them, and you guys have a pretty solid fan base on social media, and they were all, oh, heck yeah. You're like, yeah, let's go. Let's get this thing going. And now I'm getting emails or DMs like, why do you hate us so much? Like, you're a hater. I'm just like, man, I look at the roster and look what you guys have going on, and it's tough to see you guys having a successful year, and we can talk about that, obviously.
Oh yeah, and our fan base is very passionate, and sometimes in not the best way either. I know there's been players and other journalists that have come out and been like, they're taking it a little bit over the edge, and I think part of that comes with WVU is the professional sports team in West Virginia. So we treat it like we would like Pittsburgh treats the Steelers or Baltimore treats, the Ravens or whatever. So
yeah,
it's really interesting and unique, and it makes it fun though.
I love the passion. I mean, West Virginia Nation, just keep bringing it. Well, I mean, let's go.
Oh, for sure. And the one thing too, I love that I feel like the Big 12 has been a great place for us. And I know you guys are leaving us soon, unfortunately, but whenever we were in the Big East, you had all those rivalries, but there was some people who would take it across the line a little bit too much from both sides. Like when you had Pitt and VT and Syracuse and all those teams in town, just those rivalries, you'd get those battles. But I feel like when we have Big 12 fans come up to Morgantown, Tyler and I go to a lot of games, and it's just great. The Oklahoma fans have been great.
Yeah.
I remember the Holgerson game against Oklahoma when you guys had Kyler Murray.
Friday night game.
Yeah. Whenever I was ragging on Kyler Murray the whole time about him he should go back to baseball and all that stuff. And we had Oklahoma fans behind us, and they were the best. It was great.
Yeah, fans can dish it.
Yeah, maybe we can bond over this. The only bad experience with a Big 12 team I've had fan-wise is Texas.
Yeah, I can feel that for sure.
Not a fan.
Yeah. No, I've been down in the Cotton Bowl when OU has lost to Texas, and it's not fun. When you're beating Texas, the fans like empty out at halftime. But man, if they win the Red River rivalry, like I'm telling you, it is ugly. Those fans are just throwing stuff at you, and in the fair, and everyone's just wasted in that fair down there. Just all the beer that is consumed down there is just insane. So yeah, I can agree. Texas fans not high on my list.
Yeah, I mean, I've had season tickets with my dad and friends since I was a kid, and I've seen West Virginia fans. They can be hard to visitors sometimes. So as an adult, I always try to be engaging and like, hey, Texas fan, good luck today. I hope you enjoy yourself here. Normally, everyone in the Big 12, they're like, oh, thank you. We talk for a little bit. Anytime I approach a Texas fan, they're always just like, we don't need luck today. We're going to stomp you. It's like, really?
Yeah.
When's the last time they're irrelevant?
Yeah. Texas fans are a little snooty if you haven't caught on to that yet.
Yeah, I get that vibe.
Yeah.
The horns down penalty is the most ridiculous rule in college sports.
The horns down penalty? Oh, it's ridiculous. It's soft. I mean, it's just, I guarantee that will not be a penalty when they join the SEC. Greg Sankey's going to be like, heck no. Like, you guys are on your own. Like, we're not catering to you like they do in the Big 12. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, 100%.
So since it's been mentioned, you guys leaving the Big 12 to go into the SEC, how do you feel about that as a fan?
I'm looking forward to it, honestly. They've been saying, they could go next year, but I think that OU and Texas will not leave until 2025. I don't think OU specifically can afford the buyout. I think it's exciting. I think it really depends on if the college football playoff expands to 12 teams or not, because if it stays at 4 and you move to the SEC, then it's going to look kind of stupid that you made that choice, because you've got a path basically every year in the Big 12. So we'll see what that does. But the money that you're getting from the TV payouts is insane compared to other conferences. I think the teams are going to be making like $90 million a year in in TV deal and TV money. And I think right now the payout in the Big 12 is like $35 million. So, I mean, just think about what that does for not only football, but all the other facilities and sports. And it's going to be huge. So, yeah, we'll see.
What do you think about the SEC kind of expanding as aggressively as it had? Do you think it's good for college football, or do you have any kind of worries about what's going to happen with some of these other conferences?
I think it's bad for college football, the expansion. I mean, I'm old school. I like traditional rivalries. I hate the uncertainty of not being able to play Oklahoma State every year, because that's uncertain once we go to the SEC. So, I think we're headed in a direction where I think there is going to be more expansion. It's just I think you will wait and see probably until the college football playoff if that expands or not. I'd love to, and I've said this for years, I would love to see West Virginia in the ACC. And I know they always say, oh, well, West Virginia doesn't have the academic standards to get in the ACC. That's a bunch of crap. If you look at Louisville is not that great of an academic institution, and they're in the ACC. So if Louisville can be in the ACC, then damn well West Virginia can be in the ACC. So I think it'd be a great fit for you guys. Just talking about expansion.
I couldn't agree more. And, also with some of the academic issues that the ACC teams have had, like UNC's scandal with their basketball players.
Oh, yeah.
And the fake degrees. Like,
it's a bunch of
they're
crap.
still in the ACC.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you, John. I mean, don't get me wrong. The Big 12 has been a good conference, and I like being in it, but it just doesn't compare to playing Pitt every year or Virginia Tech and all those old rivals. I feel like in the Big 12, we don't really have a rival. I mean, I enjoy playing those teams, but I don't get like fired up to play any of them except maybe Texas and Oklahoma. And that's just because they're big name schools. They're like, I don't see them as a rival. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking off the top of my head. I don't think. Yeah, if I had to say who y'all's rival would be in the Big 12, I would say Texas, just because y'all had some crazy games with them. There've been some awesome finishes. But yeah, I agree with you. I like seeing you guys play Pitt, Syracuse, Virginia Tech, Maryland. I like seeing you guys play those schools because those are your more traditional rivalries.
Yeah, I'm with you, man.
And your travel bill is also a lot cheaper.
Oh man, you're not kidding. And I know it gets overstated a lot, like in our circles, but that travel has to catch up with the players, especially basketball, where you're playing multiple games a week. That can't be easy.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's going to be a pain in the rear for those guys.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. So, I mean, going back to your list, what topics would you say gets the fans most fired up? What gets them, engaged more than anything else?
God, man, it's just crazy because it seems like all of them do now. I'll do like tier list, like tiers for the upcoming season, or, when I rank players, I'll do like top 50 best players by position. That gets like players and coaches and official accounts retweet those. I did one a couple days ago. I was like the most passionate and least passionate fan bases in every sport. Those tend to blow up. And during the season, I do student sections. I rank student sections, and that's funny how that happened. Like these college students send me pictures and videos of student sections, like from across the whole country. So I'm like at home or at a game, like just get my phone. So like on Sunday, I'm kind of like grading the student sections, and those lists are fun because people do take the student section stuff pretty seriously. So yeah, all kinds of stuff. The restaurants, I did the best restaurant thing last week. That it got like 3 million views. I mean, it's just all of them seem to now. It's fun.
That's incredible, man. I've even heard you mention, I was listening to one of your interviews, that sometimes Oklahoma fans get fired up at you.
Yeah, Oklahoma fans get because there are so many OU fans out there that think that Brent Venables is, the next Nick Saban, and that OU is going to win the national championship next year. And I love the optimism, but it's just probably not going to happen. So let's just pump the brakes. And but they don't like to hear that. So I say what I believe, and if they don't like it, then that's too bad.
What are your thoughts on the Venables hire?
I think it was a really good hire. He coached here for like 12 years before. He was an extremely successful coordinator at Clemson. I think he was a huge part of the success that Clemson had there. He's kind of come in and done really all the right things. He's, a real approachable guy. Lincoln Riley was kind of closeted to himself, never really was against talking to the media and wanted to keep everything a secret. Venables is out in the open. I like what I'm seeing on the recruiting trail. It looks like we're getting better guys defensively, but we're also not getting the studs on, offense that we're used to get with Lincoln Riley. So I think it's a good hire, but, we just got to see. I think OU, I don't think they're the best team in the Big 12 this year. I think, they go 9-3, maybe 8-4. And the Big 12 is one of those conferences this year where I don't think there's a true favorite. I really don't. I mean, do you guys see a true favorite? I mean, I don't.
No, we talked about this a few episodes ago, and it's just so hard to kind of pin down one team. Baylor, they have a new quarterback, and Bohannon seemed good last year, but he couldn't finish last year.
Yeah.
So is this new guy going to do anything? Oklahoma State, is their quarterback situation fixed? Their defense, they lost almost the entire defense. Can they rebuild that? I mean, those are the two teams I would watch, but everyone's so high on Texas, and I don't get it. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know what they did. They didn't change their head coach, Sarkisian. I'm not sold on him as a head coach. And Ewers, as great as he was as a recruit, he hasn't proved anything yet. So I don't get it.
Yeah, no, there's always that Texas hype, and they've got Bijan Robinson and Xavier Worthy. They'll have a good offense, but like I said, their defense is terrible. And I think Baylor has got to be the front runner. They lost their 2 running backs, 2 big production guys, and their 2 receivers, but they return almost their whole offensive line and defensive line. So when you're good, when you return a lot in the trenches, that seems to give you upside going into the next season. So that's kind of why I've got them at the top right now. But I think it's wide open. They could lose 4 games this year. So we'll see.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'm excited. And yeah, I mean, even Kansas, like, I think Kansas is going to be better this year because their quarterback, Daniels is that his last name. He impressed me last year.
Yeah.
He was, I mean, those last 3 or 4 games that he played, he looked like a real player. And Kansas hasn't had a player at quarterback since, what was that, like 2007, 2006?
Yeah, it's been, over a decade. That's another thing I caught a lot of flack from your fan base, where I said that West Virginia is the worst team in the conference going into this season. Whew, they did not like that.
I can't imagine. You were talking about your head coaches. It kind of reminded me of the situation at WVU. Obviously, their coaching styles are different, but Dana Holgorsen was exactly like how you described Lincoln Riley, not real popular during his press conferences, always keeping things close to the vest. Whereas Neil Brown, for all the things people want to knock him for, he does seem like an open book more. He, shares his feelings and like how he feels about maybe players transferring and stuff like that. And so we do like that because even when we get frustrated with him, we still kind of like him as a person, it seems like.
Yeah. No, I can definitely see that. It's just, I think this year is a year that West Virginia's got to win 8 or 9 games for the fan base to be somewhat content. But maybe that is, I always thought like 2 schools that like I see kind of similar are like Auburn and West Virginia. I think I've tweeted this before where like both coaches left and then new coaches came in and it seems like they're worse off than they were, before those guys left. And I know everyone's really high on Neil Brown but my problem with it is he's an offensive guy. And West Virginia's, offense last year, I think they were like second to last in the Big 12 in points per game. I mean, Dahey was just not it. You lose Letty Brown. I think you return your whole offensive line. And also getting JT Daniels is huge and Graham Harrell. So I expect the offense to step up its production this year, but man, I don't know. I was expecting the offense to be a lot more productive over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think Neil Brown definitely put himself in a really bad situation by trying to call the plays, by trying to do too much. I think his recruiting's been great, but I think the product that he's put out on the field as a result of him trying to take too much control, which just doesn't work in Power 5 unless you're an elite head coach. Put him in a bad situation and led to loss, which then led to attrition. And we saw I don't know what you want to call it, the fire that the fan base rose up around whenever we had 30 players transfer in the past year.
Yeah.
I feel like he's addressed those issues, but for me, I feel like there's ebbs and flows with Neil Brown where there's really high points where you feel great. He talks the game, he does all the development and the program building. But when it comes to the coaching, I'm still up in the air on that. I think he can fix it with the hires that he made, but we'll see.
Yeah, no. And this is another thing that your fans have just been ripping me for whenever I bring up Dana Holgorsen and Neil Brown about, Dana Holgorsen didn't recruit. Neil Brown's actually recruiting. I went and looked. So in the 8 seasons that Dana Holgorsen was at West Virginia, they averaged around the low 40s in recruiting. Had a couple classes in the 50s, but morely in the mid to low 30s. And so Neil Brown, through his 4 years, is averaging around the exact same. So, about 40 and a half. the average recruiting class. So I know it's a small sample, but it is still kind of, I mean, it's almost pretty close to what Holgerson was doing.
Yeah. It seems like the class he has coming in this upcoming year, so far seems pretty good. He's kind of ahead of it. So, I mean, we could drop, but as of right now, it looks like it's going to be a good class. But I do give him credit. Brandon just mentioned it. I thought it was a bad idea that he was calling plays. At least he admitted that and brought in Graham Harrell and, basically said, I'm going to give up that duty, because I think he was just ignoring the whole team because he was just so focused on offense and calling those plays. And as a head coach, you got to delegate a little bit.
Yeah.
And so he brought in Graham Harrell, he brought in JT Daniels. So I do give him credit for that, but at some point it does have to result in wins,
Yeah. Yeah. And the defense was a strength last year, and you return a great defensive line. That Dante Stills guy is a stud. You lost that linebacker that transferred to Colorado. And then like your whole secondary like transferred. So it's like, I don't know what to expect on defense this year. But
I feel like
we'll see.
Yeah, I feel like our front seven's good. I mean, I feel like we're 2 or 3 deep right now on our defensive line, which helps out a lot, especially if they can generate pressure. That's going to help out our secondary a lot. But I'm with you with the secondary. I know the names, but I don't know how they're going to perform. And some of them look great in the spring game, but the spring game, I mean, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
But one thing I do like about our linebacking core is that we're a lot more athletic. So I'm really interested to see how that plays out, because I felt like our linebacker play last year was kind of subpar.
Yeah, no, definitely. I remember, so I was at the OU West Virginia game in Norman last year, and I was sitting right on the 50-yard line, and y'all's defensive line, front seven, was like literally in the backfield, like almost before Spencer Rattler could even get the ball. I mean, it was crazy how intense. I can't believe y'all lost that game, but I was really impressed with the defensive front in that game, because you were just after in Spencer Rattler's face all night. It was really impressive.
Yeah, definitely. And
trust me, no one was more shocked than West Virginia fans that we lost that one. I mean,
this is a funny story. So I'm sitting there with my dad at the game, and y'all have that final drive, and I'm like, West Virginia, you're up, and I say to my dad, I'm like, West Virginia's going to find a way to lose this game. And so y'all drive down the field, and then with like in the next 3 plays, the center snaps it over the quarterback's head, loses 30 yards, and the rest was history. That OU drove down and kicked the game-winning field goal. But yeah, that was a fun game for sure.
And I feel like we have a good defensive coordinator too. But yeah, I think that's going to help out a lot. Leslie, he's been great, but I'm most excited for the offense. And as we kind of talked about, there's some big changes, and we want to get your thoughts on JT Daniels, how you think he's going to impact things and where you rank him among other Big 12 quarterbacks.
Yeah, I don't have the rankings right in front of me. I think he's talented. He did well, I believe, when he was at USC for those couple games before he got hurt with Graham Harrell. Because Graham Harrell originally recruited him. That's kind of how he ended up at West Virginia. He looked good at Georgia the last second half of the 2020 COVID season. I just don't know if he's tough enough to make it through a whole season. And you don't know what's true or not, but I heard a lot of stuff about it from Georgia, because I'm from there. I know a lot of people from Athens, and that Kirby Smart was not happy with JT Daniels, not wanting to. It seemed like he didn't want to play.
Interesting.
So, and I don't know if that's true. I can't confirm that. That's just kind of the hearsay within the Georgia fan base. But he's definitely talented. It's just, is he tough enough to, go through a whole season? Because he has had injury issues.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Looking at his stats at Georgia, I know he started 7 games. He was 7-0 there, but you can't ignore the injury concerns. And with the offensive line problems that we had last year, sure, we're bringing them all 5 back, but did they improve?
exactly. That's not always, if you bring back a bunch of guys, I mean, it's still a question mark if they weren't good last year.
Right.
So
yeah, the injury factor is definitely a fair concern. I didn't hear that about Kirby Smart. Making some negative comments about JT.
Well,
Daniels.
I don't think he said anything publicly. This is hearsay, kind of saying, hey, I heard he could have played and he didn't play, and that's how Stetson Bennett got the job. And I don't know. I heard Kirby was frustrated. So
I wonder if it had to do with him, maybe being upset that he lost his job due to injury, which always, typically causes bitter feelings,
Yeah, no, it could have been. He was like, okay, Stetson's got the job. I don't want to risk myself and get hurt because I know I'm probably going to transfer next year. So who knows? I mean, I hope he comes in and really ramps it up for you guys and has a heck of a year. I mean, it's good I think it's good when West Virginia is competitive. For sure.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we bring a lot of eyeballs, so I think it's good for the conference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, Brandon, I cut you off there.
Oh, I was just going to say, I like the weapons that we have this year on offense. We bring back 2 pretty good receivers, I think. We have some really good, highly recruited running backs. I think all of them were 4 stars maybe when they recruited, except for Mathis. And then we also brought in the running back from Clemson. So, again, I think like last year where we had weapons, it really hinged on the offensive line and Deggy, and they both failed. And this year, we're hanging our hat on the same offensive line and a potentially fragile quarterback. So, yeah, if everything rolls right, I could see us winning, 8 or 9 games. But it's really going to depend on the health and how Neil Brown handles the game situations, which can be questionable at times. And how Graham Harrell impacts things, which I'm excited about, but maybe it's also because I'm a WVU homer. So from the outside looking in, what do you think of Graham Harrell as an offensive coordinator?
I think he's a pretty bright mind. He comes from that air raid background at Texas Tech. I mean, very similar to Lincoln Riley's style of offense. And if you get the right quarterback in there that can make reads and can not just throw to their first read, can progress and look at different reads, you can have a really successful offense. So I think JT Daniels, I think he can do that. He can make those throws. We've seen it. It's just, we got to see it on a consistent basis. I saw him do it against poor competition, like beating up on a bad Kentucky team or a bad Mississippi State team. And then I saw him play Cincinnati in the Peach Bowl that year. And, he just looked lost on the field. So we'll see. Good thing for him, though, is that defenses aren't as good and stout up front as in the SEC as they are in the Big 12. So we'll see. I think Harrell will have success. I think the numbers will definitely step up this season for you guys.
Yeah, I like his approach. Simple, effective offense where I'm not sure how much West Virginia you watched last year, but it seemed like the first 1 or 2 drives of WVU's game were fantastic. But once we got out of those scripted plays, it just seemed like there was no direction. We were trying to do 3 or 4 different styles of offense at one time, and the wheels would just fall off.
Yeah, no, definitely. I remember just from the OU game, I forget the backup's name, but he came in and y'all were like running him all the time. And then after those first couple drives, it went back to Dahee and it seemed like they couldn't find their identity.
Yeah. And there was a big quarterback controversy too between Deggy and Green, who's the backup. And Green, every time he would come in, seemed like he would fumble the ball away.
Yeah.
And then Deggy would come in and just throw the ball in the dirt. So we were arguing between 2 piles of dirt and which one was better. So interesting times looking back now.
Yeah, definitely.
So John, I saw you made a bowl predictor list for the upcoming football season, and I noticed WVU was off that list. And even earlier in this podcast, you said they might be the worst team in the Big 12. So I'm gonna go ahead and guess you're not predicting 6 or more wins for West Virginia this year.
Well, let's just go down their schedule. At Pitt, I mean, what do you guys think about that game? It could be pretty tough. I know they lost Addison, but it's a rivalry game, so we'll see. Kansas, you should win that. Kansas is improved. It's at home. Towson, you should win. Vatek, I think they're going to suck this year, personally.
Yeah. I'm guessing 3-1 at that point. That's my prediction. I think they'll drop either Pitt or VTech.
So then you go to Texas, which I see that as a loss. Just with as good as Texas is supposed to be, then you play Baylor at home, but Baylor I think is pretty stout. At Texas Tech, I think Texas Tech is going to surprise some people. They got Zach Keatley from Western Kentucky, that offensive coordinator. When I don't know if you saw, Western Kentucky just lit it up last year.
Oh yeah, so, Zappy.
Yeah. So
that's where Daggy transferred to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's a Hilltopper now. So so that game's going to be tough going into Lubbock. Then you got to play OU. Then your last 4 games are guff. You play Texas, Baylor, Texas Tech, OU, K-State, and Oklahoma State in a row. Does that sound right?
Yep.
I think
that's a gauntlet at the end of the season. But that can't be right, because where's Iowa State and TCU? Oh. No. Yeah, but I think it's good. I mean, I think West Virginia is going to be flirting around the 5-7, 7-5 kind of record. That's kind of my prediction this early out.
I would be okay if they went 7-5 and then won their bowl game and sneaked to 8 wins. Honestly, I think that would be pretty good for us. Because like you said, I mean, I was looking at the schedule about a week ago, and you're right. Like early in the season, it looks like we could have a decent record. But then that final stretch, it's going to be tough. Because even the games you think we would win, honestly, it's not like a slam dunk. We could easily lose a couple of those games.
Yeah.
I feel like Texas Tech should be a game that we win, but Neil Brown hasn't beat Texas Tech once yet already.
And they beat you guys last year. Yeah.
It's just they're in his head. So I'm really worried about that game when I really shouldn't have to be.
Yeah. And I really like Joey McGuire. I like that hire. And then TCU with Sonny Dykes. We'll see how they are. I think they'll have an all right offense. Defense might not be so great. And then Iowa State, they lose a ton, but Matt Campbell just always has a tough physical team. So I don't think they'll be an easy out for anybody. They may go like 6-6, but we'll lose every game by like 3 points. So
is Duggan back at TCU?
Yeah, he's back.
I like him. I think he'll be good under Dykes.
Yeah, no, and so Lincoln Riley's brother, Garrett Riley, is the offensive coordinator for TCU. So
interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Hopefully, the offensive minds aren't genetic, and TCU's offense, doesn't go off against everyone.
I don't know. They did. I mean, their offense was pretty good last year at SMU, so yeah, I expect the same kind of production. But I don't think they're going to be too good on defense. So, not really worried about TCU.
That's fair.
Yeah.
All right. So, we were going to close out talking Big 12 football, but I think we kind of touched on it earlier. It seems like it's a bit of a toss-up, and I agree with you guys. I feel like Baylor, Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma are the, one of the 3 that are going to take it. To me, Texas has to prove it. They're hyped every year, and every year they're like, 8 or less wins. So,
yeah,
I think it's between those 3 myself.
Yeah. No, and Texas plays Alabama week 2, and they're just going to get curb stomped.
Yes.
But yeah, Texas has to prove it for sure.
If you had to pick one team from the Big 12 to make the college football playoff this year, who would it be?
See, I just don't know. I don't see one. I mean, I just don't see one team that's good enough. I mean, there's just so many question marks right now. Maybe Texas catches lightning in a bottle with that offense and they make it. But I guess the safe bet would be Baylor, just because, like I said, they're solid in the trenches and are pretty physical. But like I said, there's question marks on every contender from last year. Sneaky team will be K-State. I think they might surprise some people and be pretty good with Adrian Martinez and Deuce Vaughn in the backfield. But yeah, I don't think a Big 12 team gets in the playoff this year. I think it'll cannibalize itself.
Yeah, I feel that way too. I think I agree with you. I think if there is one team, I would say Baylor too. I like Aranda a lot. I think his style really translates well between, bringing in new players. And I think defensively, they're always really solid. So I could see them somehow sneaking to 10 or 11 wins. And I never really thought of K-State as a team that could end up being at the top, but you're right. With Adrian Martinez and Deuce Vaughn, he shredded us last year.
That dude is
6 inches of him.
Yeah, he's a beast. I can't believe he's still at K-State. I'm surprised another bigger school didn't poach him from NIL for NIL money or something, because he reminds me of a mini Darren Sproles. So he can bring it for sure.
Did you bring it up on the NIL topic? I know we said the last question would be about the Big 12, but what are your thoughts on the NIL and how it's affecting transfers in college football as a whole?
So I'm more of a fan of NIL than I am the transfer portal. I love NIL, honestly. I mean, the pot is so big. You've got coaches making $10 million a year, and these players can't, get a free tank of gas from a booster. So I'm totally fine with it. Like I had on my show a couple nights ago, I had Logan Bonner, the starting quarterback of Utah State, and he's got his merch that he's selling with a logo he's made, and all that stuff's great. Where you run into the situation is just with Saban and Jimbo talking about basically paying recruits to come to the school. That's where I think there needs to be some sort of guardrails set in place, because I don't think that's what NIL was meant to be, but that's what it's quickly becoming. And I'm very I don't think it's a sustainable model, because I don't think these boosters have pockets of money that are just going to be there every year. So we'll see. I think the market will settle itself out here over a couple of years. But right now it's just the wild, wild west, and the NCAA is nowhere to be found.
No, and that doesn't surprise me either. I mean, I feel like the NCAA does the best job in the world at doing nothing and dropping the ball every opportunity they get. So eventually I think things will balance out, but I feel like until, the next 2 or 3 years, it's going to be a little bit of the Wild West. And, at least a school like West Virginia size, which is honestly a smaller size school compared to a lot of the other Power 5 teams. We're just going to have to weather the storm, because I feel like the transfer, I don't know what you want to call it, migration that we had last year, it may replicate for the next couple of years. We just have to win, and that's the only way we can stop it from happening.
Yeah, that's my bigger issue is the transfer portal, and just if you brought back you had to sit out a year, then we wouldn't see this massive roster turnover every single year, and it would also eliminate a lot of tampering and guys reaching out saying, "Hey, I'll give you $3 million if you come over here and play on our roster." I think that would eliminate that. So I think we need to attack the transfer portal first and then look at NIL second.
Yeah, I like that. I definitely think players should be making money, especially, selfishly for myself, so they can bring back the NCAA football games.
Yeah.
Also because they need to, make some money.
Yeah. No, I miss playing that game for sure back when I was a kid.
Oh, I still play NCAA 14.
I'll buy it. Yeah, when it comes out, I will buy it. I may get an Xbox or a PlayStation just to kind of reminisce, for sure.
100%. Yeah. You got anything else for John, Brandon?
No, that was it.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, John, man, this has been awesome. I love talking to you. You're very knowledgeable. And you've been very gracious for with your time, man. I would love to have you back on, maybe a preview for the Oklahoma-West Virginia game.
Yeah, let's do it. Week I don't have OU's. We played, I think, in November, right? I believe so. Right. Yeah, let's get on.
Sounds right.
Yeah, we can hop on the week before and kind of chat it up like this for sure.
All right, sounds great.
Awesome,
looking forward to it, man.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right, dude. Well,
Oklahoma this year.
Yeah. Thanks. You guys take it easy.
You too. Later, John.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
All right, guys, that was Big Game Boomer, John Whitaker. Just a very nice guy, very knowledgeable, fun. And I don't know about, all the listeners, but I enjoy his stuff. And big credit to him. I tried calling him out on the Jordan White thing, and he just owned it. He said, yeah, I probably shouldn't have put him on there. So, I mean, how can you not like this guy? What were your thoughts, Brandon?
Yeah, that was great. I mean, he was a great interview. He definitely knows his stuff, watches a lot of college football, and, definitely he's honest. He like you said, he owns his stuff. And I really like that, he has really solid opinions on and everything from the NIL to Oklahoma to, being honest that he's excited about going to the SEC and good reasons for it. So I thought it was a great interview, and I'm really looking forward to the preview that we'll have prior to the Oklahoma game. I think that would be great. And I'm really hoping coming into that game, WVU is surpassing his expectations. So we can have a good chat about what the game might look like.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think about the interview. Let us know what you think about John. Hopefully you got to know him a little better. I feel like I learned a lot about him because of this interview, and I'm glad we did it. So thanks for joining us, and we will catch you next time.
Let's go Mountaineers.